Good afternoon and welcome. This is the Spring 2021 CBCS Faculty and Staff Assembly. My name is Daniel Meng. I'm pleased to be here to host this event. We have a very exciting and packed agenda that we're going to go through. So first, we're going to begin with a report of the CBCS Faculty Council with the Curriculum, Diversity, Inclusion, and Research Subcommittee reports. Then it's going to be followed with USF Faculty Senate update. And a big part of this tradition are Dean's report and State of the College address. After the Dean's report, we're going to go to faculty and staff recognitions. We're going to conclude today's faculty and staff assembly with two AAAS fellow presentations. I want to start by acknowledging my colleagues from all the units who served as standing and alternate members of the Faculty Council, which help contribute to our shared governance. So in the past 2 semesters, we've met 4 times to conduct our Faculty Council business, and all the meeting minutes and the procedures and governance documents are available on our college website. So it's been almost 6 months since our full assembly, so I'm happy to see that we all can collectively help breathe a small sighs of relief, right? With I think the whole mass vaccination on track, and our community and country and state are kind of recovering. The challenges still remains, but I think it's getting brighter. So that's a good. So these are the faculty who's on the Faculty Council slated for next year. And I personally want to encourage folks who are considering serving in this capacity to consider Faculty Council as an important function of our college. I would like to begin by a moment of remembrance of the 2 dear colleagues that we lost. Dr. Bill G Eminer is a faculty in the Department of Rehabilitation and Mental Health Counseling. So he has been with the college since 1980s up until 2010. So he passed away last March. He was a distinguished research professor emeritus and former chair of the Department of Rehabilitation and Mental Health Counseling, in addition to serving as a former associate dean. So he was a rehabilitation counselor who specialized in mental health, employee assistance programs, marriage and couple counseling, adjustment to disability, and addictions and substance abuse. He helps thousands of people in his lifetime, teaching and inspiring others to serve and help others. Dr. Catherine Heyer, my colleague in the School of Aging Studies, professor and director of the Florida Policy Exchange Center on Aging. Dr. Heyer passed away this past January. Her work focused on the quality of long-term care, disaster preparedness, curriculum development, and educational evaluation in gerontology. She also served as a president of Gerontological Society of America and spent countless hours advocating for research, patient care, education practice, She has mentored numerous USF students who will continue to carry on her legacy. They will be dearly missed. So next, I would like to turn over to Curriculum Committee Chair Andrea Smith.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their work on the Curriculum Committee. If we could go to the next slide. We've been working, these are the members of our current Curriculum Committee, and I'd like to thank them all for their hard work and service this year, especially considering all of the challenges we've been experiencing. We started off this year with the new proposal system that was started here at USF through Curriculog, and so it took us a little bit of time to get up to speed with the new process and procedures with that. So, but even with dealing with that new system, we had a very busy year, completing 6 new course proposals, 14 course change proposals, 11 program and curriculum changes, and 1 new graduate concentration. So we've been very busy, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the committee members for their hard work this year.
Next up, we have our Diversity and Inclusion Committee Chair, Maria Carlo, Dr. Maria Carlo.
Good afternoon, I'm Maria Carlo. I'm Chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for our college. On the next slide, you see the members of our committee. We are a large committee with representation from faculty and staff across all departments in our college. Our activities this year were focused on a collaboration with Dean Surovich in the creation of a set of recommendations to strengthen our college's anti-racism and anti-Blackness efforts. To this end, we derived a set of recommendations that we have presented to the Dean, and I will share those with you briefly. We recommended the creation of a special assistant to the Dean on diversity and inclusion, with the idea that this special assistant to the Dean would have, among other responsibilities, facilitating the process of reporting incidents of potential racial and ethnic-based harassment in the workplace. We recommended that the CBCS Human Resource Office publish and widely disseminate the policies and procedures governing misconduct that contributes to a hostile work environment at CBCS. Could I have the next slide, please? We, of course, also recommended supporting efforts initiated across the departments in our college. Here we've mentioned criminology and social work, but I am aware, and since this was created, I am aware of many other such efforts across the community. And so we hope that the special assistant to the Dean could also help bring together these various groups to work together. Finally, our recommendation was a proposal that departments consider the creation of performance metrics that could be used annually in the process of faculty evaluation that capture faculty's efforts to develop and participate in educational activities related to anti-racist education and other diversity and inclusion topics. Next slide, please. And I'll just end by sharing that Dr. Lori Hall from the Department of Criminology will be next year's chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Thank you.
Hi, so I'll talk a little bit about the Research Council. I'm Marilyn Stern, and as you can see, these are our Research Council members. We have representatives from each department. Wait a minute, why is the slides? Okay, thank you. we have representatives from each department, and each of the people that are on this slide are actually going to be continuing on in the Research Council for at least one more year. Next slide. So our mission, of course, is to advise the Dean and Associate Dean of Research on matters pertaining to guidelines and procedures intended to promote growth, excellence, and integrity in research and creative activities throughout the college. And one of the main things we do, of course, is review internal grants. Unfortunately, this year, because of COVID, we didn't have any of our international travel funding because we're still not allowed to travel, but we were able to award 3 internal awards, one to Laura Kern from Child and Family Studies, Linda Callejas, also from Child and Family Studies, and Lindsay Bogus from Criminology, and wonderful research projects. Let's move on. We also were able to solicit from the college faculty for new or supplemental projects to understand Blackness and address anti-Black racism in the communities. And we had 3 awardees from MHLP, Kaya Connor, well, actually all of them from MHLP, Micah Johnson, and Carrie Rigg. All terrific proposals. We had quite a lot of applications, and these are the ones that were funded. And then we also have been doing for the last couple of years, the going to the STEM Fair sponsorship to try to work with kids and try to promote behavioral community sciences research. And we were able to give $250 to junior and senior division awards. We had Madison Feng won the junior division award, and Chaitana Mova and Vayani Tangudu, both of them won the upper senior division awards. And just to do a shout out to Mayan Lowenfeld, who's the one who really came up with this idea, and she and Howard actually did the giving of the awards. The other thing that we have spent a lot of time on in the Research Council this year had to do with trying to figure out the IRB multi-site single IRB concerns and implications, and we're still working with the IRB people. And of course, we've all, they are trying to have a couple of changes. They're coming around and talking to all the colleges about different activities they're trying to implement to perhaps listen to us a little bit more clearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Next item on the agenda, we have Dr. Tim Boas from MLHP reporting on USF Faculty Senate as the Senate President. Tim?
Thank you very much, Daniel. I'll wait until my slides come up. As Daniel mentioned, I'm the president of the USF Faculty Senate, and let me apologize for any background noise. I've got a whole crew of roofers working on the house right next door to me here, so hopefully it won't be too hard to hear. I'm proud to announce that we managed to get through our first year as a consolidated faculty senate after a 2-year process of consolidation and working through a lot of difficult issues. We managed to bring together senators from all 3 campuses together to work on issues of importance to the faculty senate. In our wisdom, in the process of consolidation, one of the requirements in our bylaws is that we develop the capacity to meet virtually so anybody could attend from any campus. Obviously, we made good use of that over this past year. Can we have the next slide? I want to start by thanking a very large number of faculty from our college who have given generously of their time in service to the faculty of this university and to the university in a number of roles. First of all, we have 7 faculty who served as faculty senators this year. I don't have full details on what the representation will be like for next year. These people all served this year. You'll notice that we have 7 for 6 departments. That's because in our consolidation agreement, existing senators in the campus or separate institution senates continued. So we had 2 senators from the Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders. Next slide. We also had a number of faculty who served on faculty senate councils. There are more than a dozen faculty senate councils. Our college typically has 1 seat on each council, although there are a couple for which we have more than 1 representative. I in particular want to express my appreciation to Ray Miltenberger, who serves as the chair of the Graduate Council, and Jenna Luque, who serves as a co-chair for the Council on Faculty Issues. I think she's on the next slide if you want to advance it one more. Serving in these roles, leadership roles, is extremely important. Most of the work of the Faculty Senate gets done through the Faculty Senate councils, and without them, you know, it would just be hard for our university to function. We have a lot of important things that get done here. I want to point out at the bottom of this slide here, Council on Racial Justice. I'll come back to that in a little bit. One of our new councils that we developed this year. Next slide. And then I'll go on to the next one. So I want to give you a bit of an update on some of the important issues that came up in Faculty Senate this year. It was such a momentous year, really. There were a lot of things of great importance that came up. So I'm sure I'll miss out on talking about some of the things, but several that I thought were incredibly important. First of all, the work that we did in the Faculty Senate, just as many others across the university have done, focused on racial justice. Early in the year, the Faculty Senate passed a resolution on racial justice that we sent to the USF administration. A significant part of the focus of our resolution was on urging our administration to make a commitment to racial justice part of the core mission of the university, and that we saw our work on racial justice at USF as importantly going beyond just making sure that we as a university aren't racist, but rather to focus on developing education and research focused on anti-racism and trying to promote these within our nation to help have some impact on this issue for our entire country. I'm not sure if I don't think Greg Teague is on the agenda for this. I just want to mention that we've had a number of consultations with the Advisory Task Force on Strategic Renewal for the university. As you know, the president, this has been a major focus of his over the last year to start developing a strategic plan that will guide the university's development going forward. And we've had a number of consultations with this task force and, to try and help guide that process. Next slide. Perhaps the overwhelmingly dominant theme of this year for the Faculty Senate has been focusing on the budget issues going on at the university. Some of these issues pertain to things that happened prior to this year, but of course all of this has been tremendously complicated by the impact that the coronavirus pandemic has had on the state budget and by extension on the university budget. So over this past semester, a small group consisting mostly of the leadership of the Faculty Senate, but also some other selected faculty senators, have been meeting on a weekly basis with the leadership of our administration to discuss some of these budget issues. Most of our discussions over this time have focused on a few particular issues. We discussed some of the problems that the colleges were anticipated to have next year based on the very large cuts that were required for this coming year to accommodate the Board of Governors requirement that we develop a plan for an 8.5% budget reduction for next year. The first one that we tackled was to find a way for the College of Arts and Sciences to not incur a loss of tuition revenue that was greater than the actual budget cut that they made. And we were able to develop a plan for that, but unfortunately it's one that's not going to be a sustainable model going forward. So a lot of our more recent discussion has been on the ways that we develop the budget. We were able to convince the administration to meet with deans to work out a new plan for funding for summer school that allowed some possibilities for the colleges to generate additional tuition revenue to help make up for some of the budget shortfall. And then more recently, the administration has been working with deans to try to revise the overall budget planning process to make it more transparent and accountable, and to help colleges have more predictable budgets going forward. The Florida legislature this year has entertained more proposals regarding, or legislative proposals regarding higher education than probably any session in recent history. And I'll just convey to you that I heard from our president that the Florida State University President John Thrasher, who was a prior Speaker of the Florida House, indicated to him that this is the most hostile environment he's seen in the legislature for higher education in his memory. It has truly been a difficult legislative session. The state level faculty governance group, the Advisory Council of Faculty Senate, spent a significant amount of time this spring working on one particular piece of legislation that you probably have heard about. It's House Bill 233. There were 3 provisions in this bill of concern to faculty. The first had to do with granting students the right to record classroom activity. This bill initially provided for students to be able to do that without permission and to publish those videos on the internet. Fortunately, we and others were successful in convincing them to scale that back so that classroom recordings that students make can only be used for personal use unless they become involved in some legal procedure. A second part of that bill that has come up repeatedly that is going to be put into place for this next year is an annual survey that universities will be required to conduct on intellectual diversity. I think it's actually referred to as viewpoint diversity and intellectual freedom or something like that. The Board of Governors is going to have to create or select a survey, and universities will be required to administer this to determine that there's adequate diversity of viewpoints on college campuses, and that different perspectives are not essentially suppressed, if you will. So that's something that's going to be coming forward. There were a number of other bills that were offered that provided tuition waivers of various types. These are very problematic for the universities because the legislature doesn't fund these. So this just means we have less revenue. I think a number of these ended up being stopped along the way, but one that looks like it's likely to go through is a bill that's going to grant in-state tuition status for out-of-state students who have grandparents living in the state of Florida. And this is not only a problem because of the implications for our funding, but also the difficulties related to establishing who gets this status. And the final thing I want to talk about here is our prospects on the budget. As I mentioned, we've had weekly meetings with the administration. We had one this morning and received a briefing from our government relations person, Mark Walsh. Unfortunately, the news is not really very good. He indicated that currently the reconciliation group that's trying to get the House and budget versions together is looking at the possibility of a 7% recurring budget cut for the state university system, which would be, although better than what we currently have planned for at 8.5%, is still pretty bad. And fortunately, they've managed to get the governor involved in this process recently. He has an agenda of trying to make the economy look good, so it's thought that he might be willing to work to try and get this mitigated somewhat. We expect to hear probably a final story on where this is going to land by next Tuesday, so that the legislature is able to sign off on it and close out their session by the end of next week. And I think with that, I'll stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Boaz. This is an important, huge service, and then you and other faculty senators really represent our college well. So next up, we have our dean, Dr. Julie Sorovich, to give the dean's report. Julie, the virtual podium is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for being here and gathering today. I miss our regular assembly, and I hope that next year we'll be back together in the fall to be able to do this in person. So, but before I give my report, I want to take a moment and recognize the atrocities that continue to occur towards our Black, Brown, Asian, and transgendered members of our community. During a brief moment of reflection, I also want to acknowledge the numerous police officers who have died this year trying to keep us safe. Thank you. Now to my report. So I have a few slides that I want to show you about our performance this past year, and even though we've been remote, we've just knocked it out of the park. So let me say that a few weeks ago, Jen Lister and I, in anticipation of the college review by the provost's office, met with a few members of his team and reviewed the 1.5 bajillion metrics that we have to that we're responsible for. And I can tell you that it's incredibly impressive. They were trying to find things that the provost may bring up that would, critique our college, but really it is tough. We're just increasing on just about every metric possible, and if we weren't, it was a really good explanation for it. So I want to thank you for all the hard work you do every single day in this college, faculty, staff, students, to make that possible. So you're going to see some good stuff here. As I go through, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And if I haven't answered it by the time that I'm done, then we'll go back and make sure that we get all your questions answered. Towards the end, I'll also talk a little bit about COVID and budget. So let me just start here with academic productivity. Our SCH continues to climb. It has never, we've never turned around since 2015-16. We just continue on an upward trajectory. And let me say that most of this has got to do with undergraduate SCH, and these are primarily our gen ed classes that fill practically as soon as we open. In fact, I asked for one of our classes to be held until the freshmen get in, so we can open it up to get some freshmen in there as well. We have very new popular classes, and it's amazing how well these are, and it's word of mouth. You all are just incredible instructors, and that's what students want. They don't want to be struggling with their instructor, and so they refer. I know that. My boys tell me all the time, yeah, it's a good instructor, good class. I tell my friends about it. So that's what's happening here, and it's, again, a very clear trajectory upwards. Okay, a reflection of your work. And let me just say that we revised all these numbers to represent one USF. So all the numbers I'm showing you represent one USF. So there's our SCH for undergraduate, and our graduate also continues to climb. And so it's steady and moving all in the right direction. We have new programs coming on board all the time. You guys are being extremely creative, and our programs are very popular. And the enrollment, the applications, I don't know about enrollment yet, but I can tell you that the applications to our graduate programs almost across the board were up this year. And in a year of COVID, that's really unusual. We didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. And so the fact that that's happened really talks volumes of the work that you're doing. Undergraduate headcount. This chart, we tried to get it to look a little bit better than this. It's really, there's only about 100 and some students that were down this year over last. And some of it has got to do with the fact that people didn't want to come in to school in the fall. So the SCH went up because those students who did come here want our classes. Not all of them, though, are enrolling in our programs. I'm not concerned about that. I think we'll see this turn around again. We're looking into bringing in, potentially bringing in a marketing person to help with that. The graduate headcount, though, continues to go in a steady upward trajectory. And given the nature of many of our degrees, that only makes sense. Okay, so then student success. So this is our second year retention rate, and the dark color is those that are retained from year 1 to year 2 in our college, and the lighter one is those retained in the university. And these are really, and when we look at other colleges, these are remarkable numbers, very high. We have a ceiling effect going in here. At 95%, we only had to go down. So these are incredibly strong. Our graduation rate for first time in college is also one of the strongest in the university. It's at 75-73% for 4-year. 6-year at 84% is astounding. So we know that if we can get the students into college, we can certainly graduate them. Our undergraduate degrees awarded, and for 1920 was up again. That is only about 50 students, but still, it's still strong, still going in the direction that we hope. And our graduate degrees just were down by 30, whatever. It's not a big deal as far as I'm concerned. Our percent of undergraduates graduating without excess hours is astounding. I think we lead the pack in the university at 91-92%. Again, we're gonna fluctuate up there. We hope we'll stay up there, but we'll fluctuate a little bit. It only makes sense that you go kind of back and forth. And then, of course, this is no surprise, right? Given this year, we doubled the number of online SCH. So you can anticipate, we're just going to call it the COVID effect, and it's obviously going to go down next year. So grant and contract activity, again, so the number of proposals from 20 to 21, and this is year to period. So it's the same time last year. So it's comparing apples to apples. But we're up in the number of proposals. We're slightly down in the amount that we're asking for, which is fine. The number of awards, though, has increased this year, 123. And as of April 1, we had $29 million in awards from July to April. And last year, as I recall, at this same time last year, it was 27, and we ended somewhere around 29 to 30 million. So despite COVID, you are still doing an incredible amount of work out there, and my gratitude could not be deep enough. Okay, so let me just get some general COVID updates. So it's expected that we will be back in full form, the same as we were teaching in 2019, this coming fall. Now, that's what we're preparing for. That's what we're hoping for. But at this point in time, it's unclear. The virus will decide that. Things remain pretty consistent with the university and the numbers that we have on the university campus in comparison to the general public that surrounds us. And that's one of the barometers we look to measure whether we're going to come back or how we're going to come back in the fall. We know that session B is we're upping the numbers from last year to try to get more on-campus experiences for those students. We're looking, travel is slowly opening up, not so much international travel, but domestic travel is slowly starting to inch up. If you want, if you have something coming up that you think that you need to be on in person, you need to completely fill out the Veloci form, attach it, answer every question, send it to me for pre-approval, and then if I'll get right back to you, and it goes on to the full committee. I talked to Donna Peterson. She said that that they're looking at each case on a case-by-case basis, whether the person really needs to be there in person or not, how they're traveling there, etc. So please, if you just answer every question, do not submit the form until you get it back to me through your chair, or at least a copy of your chair, so that I can take a look. Because I'm talking with Donna quite a bit. I have a pretty good idea of what they're looking for. And we don't really want to be calling her all the time and getting and she's just really overwhelmed. So that's going on. Now, in terms of who will be back in the office, that is currently being discussed and formulate a set of principles being formulated by HR. The director, Angie Slenka, met with the deans about 2 weeks ago and asked us, what do we want as deans? What do we want to see in terms of return to work, especially for staff and others? And basically what we asked for is maximum flexibility. We want the most flexibility that we can have. We want to be making the decisions in our college. It's very different if you're teaching in in engineering or in biology than if you're teaching in our kind of college, or what kind of position is it? Is it student facing? Is it something that you have to handle things in an office? So we asked for the most flexibility and for us to be making those decisions versus the university coming out and saying these positions must return, or how they return, or when they return, all of that. So once we get the principles by from the university, then I'm going to sit down with the college leadership team and talk about what we want, what's going to work best for us. And it may vary by unit. It probably will vary by unit, because the work that you do, depending on the job, may require you to be back on campus, may require that you're not on campus. And then what does that mean? What does it mean to not be on campus? What does it mean to be on campus? So we're working through that right now. And as soon as we have something, I'm hoping that we'll have the principles soon. It's not going to be obviously before summer, because we're about there anyway. But we'll start working on them over the summer and communicate with you as soon as we know how we're going to take what they give us and implement it. So that's really all I have in terms of COVID. Tim really covered so much of the stuff on budget. So the only thing I can say that I could add to what he presented is that the governor's request was not as severe as the House and the Senate. The House asked for a cut of higher education at about $581 million. The Senate asked for like $270 million cut to higher education. The governor asked for $100 million cut. But since the time the governor's recommendation came out, the economy has really turned around quite a bit. And so it'll be interesting to see what that's ultimately going to mean for the allocation, direct allocation. As Tim also mentioned, we could be taking some hits in terms of the buy one, get one for STEM education, buy one, get one class for those people that are veterans or have been out of college for a number of years. So until those bills actually get passed, it's going to be difficult to really see what the impact is going to be. The grandparenting one, as he mentioned. So we're going to have to wait and see. As a college, I think we will be fine. You all have done such great things in your units to be able to help yourselves during this time, and so I am very optimistic. Every year we see this play out. Every year the House slashes us drastically, and then the Senate doesn't quite as much. And then by the time it's all said and done, and people, they're right now in negotiations. They're not going to negotiate over the weekend because the Speaker of the House has a wedding to go to. But they'll be back, and we should see the budget probably what they recommend to the governor by Tuesday. But after that, we won't hear anything until probably till the very end of June, when he has to make the decision by the July 1 due date for delivering the budget. So he probably won't even ask for it until maybe the end of June, you know, maybe later. But as we've been talking about all along for years now, we've been working on diversifying our revenue streams. It's working. We just have to, and if we have to use those kinds of funds to keep us going along here, we're in a great position to do so. And even the fiscal folks, and when I meet with the fiscal folks, they always say that this college is one of the strongest financially speaking, because of the way we handle our money, the way we have diversified our streams, and that we're far ahead of many of the other colleges that haven't gotten here quite yet. So I want to thank you for all your work in that regard. And now I will take questions. And let me just show you some pictures while I take some questions. We had some COVID working from home pictures come in. These are the ones of the dogs, very cute. And then we had ones of people, even cuter. So what questions do we have?
Just remind people they can ask questions in the chat. So we have 2 questions, one for you and then one for Tim Boas. So I hope he can come back in and answer. The first one is for you, Dean Surovich. It says, are we required to submit travel requests during the summer if we are not under contract? And I assume that's referring to 9-month faculty.
If you're going to get reimbursed, if you want reimbursement, yes. If you don't care about getting reimbursed, then but if you want reimbursement, you have to have that paperwork filed with the university in order to get reimbursed for that travel.
Okay, and the next question for Tim Boas. Can you say more about the content of the intellectual diversity survey? What is the intent behind this survey? Do we know?
Is Tim okay, there he is.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So we don't know what the content of the survey will be. The bill itself says the Board of Governors has to select or create a survey for this purpose. The state level faculty governance group has already started kind of sending the message to the Board of Governors that we think what they should do is identify faculty at the universities throughout the system who have expertise in survey development and measurement to develop a reliable, nonpartisan survey that will give us some meaningful information on this. I think most people think the motivation for this is to prove that all the left-leaning faculty are indoctrinating their students into liberalism. And Mark Walsh, our government relations person, has said he's been arguing for some time. We should take this one by the horns and go out and collect some real data and show what the situation is. Because I think, although I think it's widely, probably accurately viewed that as a group, faculty at universities are more left-leaning than the legislators are. But whether or not that means that we're suppressing right-wing views or creating a hostile environment for students that don't share those views, I think that's something that we need to take on and demonstrate that this is not something that they have a beef about, legitimate beef about. So that's as much as I know about it.
Tim, I have another question for you concerning the survey. Will there be any means to require faculty to complete the survey?
Well, I'll just say that I think that if we get a decent survey to use, we will hope every faculty member will respond. We want to get the information out there, and we want to make sure that we have enough of a response to make a case for whatever it is we find. And if we do find problems, then we need to address them. I don't think that'll be the case, but I doubt if it will be required, but I think that it'll be something that we'll want to do.
Thank you. And back to Julie. Do we have any guidance on holding classes on campus in the fall? Will class sizes still be at a reduced capacity? Things of that nature.
I don't know yet. At this point, they're still at a reduced capacity for summer. I do believe that they will be to some degree. We're not going to be back sitting 2 inches from each other in the fall. So there will be some. I can't imagine that we wouldn't have some diminished capacity in the classroom, but it should be greater than what we're experiencing now, and what we'll experience in the summer. Yeah.
Okay.
Next talk about the intellectual bill. I think one of the issues here is they just want to make sure that all voices are spoken and heard, because there is this real slant against, and as Tim said earlier, the higher education has never been more beat up in the legislature this year. That just hasn't. It's very true. And so what they want to make sure is that we're not indoctrinating, and that there is a wide variety of opinions that are expressed and appreciated on the college campus. And so, one of the we've been banning, the students have been wanting us to ban certain groups from coming on campus to rally, or to stand and hold their Bible and say their thing. And the legislature doesn't like that. They feel like this is public property and state property, and so anyone should be free to come on campus and express their opinions, and we shouldn't be banning people from certain types of voices from being heard by students. So I think that's some of the impetus behind the survey. I don't know how they're going to pull this off, but I'll certainly fill it out.
In that vein, I should point out that bill also has a provision that specifically bans universities from doing what's called shielding, which is what you just described.
Yeah.
So
they don't want that, and they want all voices on campus to be heard.
Okay, Julie, the next question. What was the impact of the voluntary faculty retirement program? Was it positive or negative for the college?
As far as I know, it's going to be positive for the college, because we did not have to give up any of that rate for our budget holdbacks and cuts from this past year. So I talked to David Lechner actually just 12:30 today, and he said as long as we didn't need that to satisfy our cuts, then we would be fine. That we don't, that money the rate should return back to the college. Now, they're not saying that it definitely will, because we have to look at what's going to happen this year. And if we do get some draconian types of cuts, then I don't know what's going to happen. But at this point in time, I'm expecting that it comes back.
Okay, next question.
I'll just say to that degree about hiring. I've already spoken with the provost and told him that we have to get out faster than we have been in terms of hiring. I told him I expect that we're going to hire, and that we're going to have a lot of hiring going on, and that I want his permission earlier than we have been getting it to get that up and going. And he received the message very positively. And so I've already asked the units to put together a hiring plan. I told him I was going to have it ready for him as soon as we knew what the budget situation was going to look like for the colleges, and that should hopefully be early August. So unless, and I say all this stuff, and then like last year I said the same thing and it blew up, but we're prepared. We're ready to run as soon as the budgets get settled, and we're going to have position description ready. We're going to have everything all ready to hit the ground.
Next question. Will we be given the option of continuing to work from home in the fall if it has worked out well for us in the university?
So I hope so. If you're getting positive evaluations, I hope so. I don't see it necessarily a need, depending on your job. It just depends on your job, the type of job that you have, whether you need to be on campus or if you've been doing really well and you're home. Now, I do worry somewhat about people's just lack of interaction, with your colleagues. I worry about communication. I worry about mental health. But, and again, I have an idea of how I like to have this structured and a plan for it, but I just can't get out ahead of the university. So, but I hope that if you've been working from home and it's been going well and your supervisor agrees and you're feeling productive and you're not working too much, that's the other issue. That people are getting up, because it's easy, right? You get up, you just roll over to the computer and you start working, and then, at the end of the day, or you say you have lunch. Well, why not just go ahead and answer a few emails over lunch? I find myself doing it all the time, way too much. So I worry about those kinds of things, but we'll put together a good plan. And I guess, again, we asked because the deans agree, we want maximum flexibility to be able to allow that where it seems like it's working really well.
I don't see any other questions right now. But if people still have questions, we could come back to it towards the end of the assembly.
Great. Let me see if I can advance the slides and get back where we were. There you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sorovich, for that update. On behalf of Research Council, I would like to thank you for your leadership in this stormy weather, right, so to speak, and quite unprecedented. And as the numbers indicated, our college is really weathering this storm quite nicely. So appreciate, this, and also being on the being a faculty council chair in the past year, gave me firsthand experience of some of the inner workings, right, backstage of how to keep the ship moving forward. So really impressive group of people, right, leaders at different levels to making sure that we're, still heading in the right direction. With all the encouraging output and achievements, I think awards and recognitions are in order. So next up, I would like to turn it over to Steve Johnson, Director of Administrative Services, and Dr. Anna Abella for recognition of our wonderful staff.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have the privilege of presenting the first RAP award. And the first award goes to Wendy Stoneman Shelby. I would also like to highlight a few comments from her nomination forms. Wendy has perfected the art of leadership and leads her team with integrity, accountability, empowerment, and inspiration. Wendy is a mentor, a champion, and a leader among so many other qualities. She takes the whole person approach to supervision. She learns about the unique qualities of each individual. She supervises and utilizes their strengths to the college's advantage and works on development where needed. Congratulations, Wendy, and thank you for your service to CBCS.
So I believe I'm up next, and I think it will be obvious who this is about as I describe her contributions. So Janet Reyes, I'm sorry to put you in the spotlight, but you were the first person I thought of for this award. I was thrilled to nominate Janet for this award for several reasons, one of which was her support of my colleagues and I in submitting a Federal National Institute of Justice grant application last year, which will finally, after a long post-award process that she was very supportive through, allow us to conduct an evaluation of schools' experiences implementing violence prevention and mental health training programs across the U.S. It was difficult to narrow down just one way or one time that Janet has gone above and beyond because that's her norm, but the submission of this grant application took place at an especially stressful and uncertain time, right as we were still transitioning to working from home after COVID became really serious. And of course, she didn't miss a beat in guiding us through the process and ensuring we had a strong application. This project involved staff and faculty from within and outside of our college, and Janet oversaw the process of coordinating everything we needed across colleges, and she worked with us very patiently as we revised the budget and methods numerous times, and she provided much needed guidance in following the many requirements that are part of these federal awards. Although our team, of course, worked hard to develop the proposal, we relied on Janet's insight and expertise to strengthen it, and I have no doubt that her assistance in several aspects of the proposal led to its acceptance. Janet is someone who is crucial to our department and college, and I can't imagine how we would function without her, and I know I've heard that from many other people as well. She has extensive knowledge of what makes proposals strong, and often if we're stuck trying to resolve a problem during the development of a proposal, somebody will inevitably say, well, let's ask Janet, she'll probably know. So we probably over-rely on her, but I know I speak for many of my colleagues when I say that we see her as a core, trusted partner in our work. So Janet, you are truly a valued asset in our college, and I'm so happy for you to be recognized with this award. And I believe I'm passing it on to Patty now.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Anna, for presenting the staff award. Next, I would like to invite Associate Dean Dr. Jen Lister to present the Dean's Faculty and Student Awards.
I'm going to interrupt the assembly because I have one more award to present. So I'll turn my camera on and Stefan can bring my video up. So I'm presenting a special COVID-19 award, and it is going to, if I can get my slide to switch over, Stefan Fiku. Over the past year, while most of us have been working from home, Stefan has been on campus working as an essential employee since day one of the pandemic. He has been the primary go-to person for resolving a multitude of pandemic-related challenges. He's worked above and beyond to help keep us all learning in a safe, healthy, and productive environment. He's worked with facilities planning and the physical plant on procuring and distributing PPE and sanitization supplies for the college and for all the classrooms we teach in across the campus. He has spent countless hours, and I mean countless hours, almost daily, getting the classrooms ready for the fall and spring semesters by troubleshooting the many IT problems that we've encountered as we've, transitioned from in-class to hybrid format teaching. And he's been trying his best to improve the quality of the technology in our classrooms, which has been a huge challenge. Stefan has been instrumental in producing the college-wide Teams live virtual events like this one. He's working behind the scenes right now, so he's controlling what you see and hear at the assembly, and he's making sure that the show runs smoothly. He's also helped produce many other virtual events like the town hall meetings the dean hosted early in the pandemic, and he's helped with a number of other large virtual events that we've hosted for the college and for criminology and aging studies. And he had to do this and get up to speed on learning how to use Teams Live in a very short period of time, and also keep updated on all the Teams changes that take place. So Teams looks very different now than it did a year ago, and he's had to keep up with all of those changes. In addition, Stefan has worked closely with our academic support team as we've had to schedule, reschedule, and change our course schedules at least 3 or 4 times per semester. As you all know, there have been lots of changes from the provost office and the registrar's office, and our class schedule is just constantly changing, and he's been instrumental in helping our team work through all those issues. But more than anything, Stefan is always willing to jump in and help with any project we throw his way. And usually he's just hears about something going on and he'll say, well, let me know if I can help. And we always ask, and then we always get him involved, and we're grateful that we have. So I just wanted to let Stefan know that I'm grateful that I get to work with him, and I truly would not be able to do my job without him. He's one of the unsung heroes at USF, and so deserving of this award. So congratulations, Stefan. I hope this was a surprise. So let's give Stefan, Janet, and Wendy a round of virtual applause. They are all amazing staff. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Patty. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jen Lister to present the Dean's Faculty and Student Awards. Excuse me. Jen, you're on.
Hey there, everyone. Hello, I am Jennifer Lister, and it's my pleasure to present these awards. So first, we'll be presenting the Dean's Faculty Awards. And I want to take a moment to thank everyone who submitted nominations this year. We had many wonderful nominees and deserving applicants in each category. And this meant that the awards committee had to make some very difficult decisions. We encourage everyone to submit nominations again next year, and please continue submitting nominations as we honor the accomplishments and hard work of our CBCS faculty and students. So first I'll present the faculty awards, and those are listed there on the first slide. Let me change the slide. Because the Dean's Outstanding Teaching Award is the one that is given to recognize excellence in teaching at the undergraduate or graduate level. And in this year, I'm pleased to announce that the award goes to Dr. Shelly Waivers from Criminology. She was nominated by Dr. Dawn Cecil and Dr. John Cochran. Dr. Waivers received this award based on her exceptional dedication and commitment to teaching that is rooted in practitioner experience and scholarly work. Her innovative and ardent dedication to student success is evident in her teaching portfolio and her teaching evaluations provided by peers and students. She led students in 2 community-engaged directed research projects, which has in turn led to Dr. Waivers co-authoring 2 manuscripts with these students to be submitted to academic journals for peer review. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Waivers. The next award is the Dean's Outstanding Service Award, and this award is given to tenure or non-tenure track faculty of any rank in CBCS who have demonstrated at least 3 years of outstanding service to the department, college, university, profession, and or the local community. And the award this year, it's my pleasure to announce, goes to Dr. Sandra Stone, who is Assistant Dean of Graduate Studies for the Sarasota Manatee campus, also a member of the criminology faculty. And she was nominated by Dr. Jessica Groschholz, Dr. Fawn No, and Dr. John Cochran. And Dr. Stone has been an invaluable asset to the USF Sarasota Manatee campus, which is evident in her 2020 appointment as the Sarasota Manatee campus Assistant Dean for Graduate Studies. She has served in many roles within her department, the college, and USF. Professionally, she has been involved in many community engagement activities. Her service efforts were recognized in 2020, as she was also awarded the USF Sarasota Manatee Faculty Excellence Award for Service. Her colleagues, when nominating her for the Dean's Award, reported that her outstanding service drives the success of USF, her department, her college, her campus, and the community and larger society. Congratulations, Dr. Stone. The next award is the Outstanding Graduate Faculty Mentor Award. This award recognizes faculty who demonstrate the highest level of quality in the mentoring of graduate students in teaching, research, and service. This year, I'm very happy to announce that the award goes to Dr. Kwansoon Blair from Child and Family Studies. She was nominated by Dr. Ray Miltenberger. Dr. Blair was nominated for her extraordinary commitment and effectiveness as a mentor to graduate students in Applied Behavioral Analysis program. She has a true passion and devotion for working with students and works tirelessly toward the success of the ABA program. Since 2011, Dr. Blair has applied for and received funding as a PI or co-PI for 4 training grants, in addition to developing a distinctive training environment in 3 local public school districts that provide students with career opportunities as school-based behavior analysts, improving outcomes for students with disabilities. Every year, she provides countless hours in thesis mentoring for master's students, in addition to mentoring doctoral students, so that the ABA program continues to graduate competent students who have successful careers as behavior analysts. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Kwansoon Blair. The next award is the Dean's Outstanding Research Accomplishment Award. This award is given to tenure or non-tenure track faculty of any rank with at least 3 years of significant and continuous research productivity, This year, I'm pleased to announce that the award goes to Dr. Marilyn Stern of Child and Family Studies. She was nominated by Dr. Mario Hernandez. Dr. Stern was nominated based on her extraordinarily productive and impactful career as a researcher in the field of pediatric and child health oncology and obesity. She is an American Psychological Association Fellow of 3 divisions: counseling psychology, health psychology, and pediatric psychology. She has received funding from NIH, the National Cancer Institute, and the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. Her collaborations include the Tampa Hispanic Services Council and Moffitt Cancer Center. In addition, she has published nearly 120 papers and book chapters, mentoring numerous students from undergraduates to postdoctoral fellows, serves as a standing member of Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, serves on the editorial review board of Children's Healthcare, and reviews for journals in her field as well as for NIH. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Marilyn Stern. And next, we move on to the Dean's Student Awards, and I'll take each in turn. The Outstanding Graduate Student Research Award goes to Victoria Marino from Aging Studies. She was nominated by Dr. Bill Haley. Ms. Marino has shown exceptional vision and focus in her studies since she began her career at USF as an undergrad. She has 10 peer-reviewed papers published or in press, including 3 lead authored papers, and holds an F31 dissertation grant from the National Institute on Aging. In addition, she has been active in conference presentations and service activities and leadership in the School of Aging Studies, as well as in the American Psychological Association. Currently, as a 5th-year PhD student, she has already accepted a highly competitive postdoctoral research fellowship at Boston University and the VA Boston Healthcare System. Congratulations to Victoria Marino. And next, we have the Outstanding Graduate Student Teaching Award. This award goes to Cassandra Dodge from Criminology. She was nominated by Dr. Elizabeth Cass. Ms. Dodge has served as a teaching assistant in the Department of Criminology in addition to teaching 5 courses in both in-person and online formats. Her student evaluations are evidence of her outstanding teaching, as her ratings are consistently above the department and college averages. Her innovative teaching methods include redesigning a research methods field observation exercise, even in the midst of COVID. She strives to teach courses with rigorous content while developing impactful relationships with her students that lead them to success. Congratulations, Cassandra. Finally, just to recognize a few other faculty awards that have occurred over the past year. We had 2 AAAS fellows, Dr. Howard Goldstein from the Dean's Office, our Associate Dean for Research and also faculty member in Communication Sciences and Disorders, and Dr. Ray Miltenberger of Child and Family Studies. We had 1 distinguished university professor this year, Dr. Bill Haley from the School of Aging Studies, and please join me in congratulating each of them for these honors. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. It's truly a wonderful experience to share these celebration of the awardees. So congratulations to you all. As part of the CBCS family tradition, right now, after each spring, as part of each spring assembly, we have our newly minted AAAS fellows given presentations. So first presentation will be given by Dr. Howard Ghosty. Howard, you have the podium.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel. This is a very nice recognition, especially because it's such a struggle for scientists in our college to find AAAS fellows in our specialty areas to sponsor our nominations. So as pioneers, we must broaden our awareness and acceptance of our contributions to behavioral sciences. Today, I plan to share examples from 3 areas of my research. With staying power, this research continues to be applied and extended in novel ways. But as I reflected on my career, I wondered, what's the commonality? Here are examples. A boy with severe intellectual disabilities who couldn't jump. Children with developmental disabilities who couldn't generate novel language or even put words together. Children with autism who didn't know how to play with fellow preschoolers. And children who don't learn how to read well enough to succeed in school. There seems to be
an overriding question. Why is it so hard for some children to learn things that we typically take for granted? First, let's consider language development. The power of language comes from combining words and other units. And if you think about it, how do humans learn to combine words in novel ways to create structures, sentences, and discourse they never heard before? And how can we teach children with developmental disabilities to produce generative or untaught language? So this is an example from my research on matrix training. Notice on the bottom, the objects. There along the left-hand side, you'll see 5 prepositions and 6 locations are shown diagonally. So a child may have to describe a combination of these things, such as the button is on the rug, or they may ask to put the penny behind the cabinet. This 3 by 5 by 6 matrix represents 90 combinations. And if we multiply it by the 2 modalities of receptive comprehension and expressive labeling, we have 180 responses. In our research, we combine the power of observational learning and matrix training to teach children with severe intellectual disabilities. And we start with just a combination of known words and 2 or 3 word utterances consistent with syntactic rules. We have found that expressive modeling of only 4 or 5 responses was sufficient to promote recombinative generalization in the expressive and the receptive modalities. Thus, 95 to 98% of subjects' learning was attributable to generalization processes. You probably never heard of recombinative generalization, but this research dispels the notion that generalization is some magical process. In fact, generalization becomes predictable when we're able to fully understand the factors that control it. It's also antithetical to the idea of an innate ability to learn language easily merely from exposure to one's native tongue. This concept of recombinative generalization actually dates back to 1925 and has long been overlooked as an important component to theories of development and behavior sciences generally. And with the focus on developmental disabilities, consider children with autism, their lack of interest in others, especially peers. This lack of social skills is a hallmark of autism. Early research on social skills showed the amazing effects of peer-mediated interventions. I asked, why couldn't it be extended to the realm of social communication? Inclusive preschool programs have been increasingly commonplace starting in the late 70s. But in the absence of adult intervention, typical preschoolers were more likely to interact with local classmates than with children with disabilities. Here is consistent with that notion. On the far left, you'll see baseline observations and interactions in 10-minute samples. And then there's a buddy condition, where we sensitize typical preschoolers to nonverbal communication exhibited by classmates with developmental disabilities. But that did not result in improved social interactions. However, when we taught peers to stay, play, and talk across the day, it increased social interactions. It even resulted in improved sociometric ratings. We had tested more demanding peer strategies, and I can attest to the fact that preschoolers could be speech-language pathology assistants. But this set of facilitated strategies that we coined stay, play, talk was far simpler to teach. And with minimal encouragement, peers could incorporate stay, play, talk across the school day rather than just during playtime. It turns out that these peer intervention approaches also have positive effects on the social skills of typical preschoolers. Change. Whoops. On a related note, this is an example of the social script used during free play with one child with autism and 2 typical peers. These are preschoolers. The script is not like a script for a play, but you can sort of see a general outline, and it's novel because even a child nonverbal, a child who has minimal verbal skills, and a child with elaborated language ability participate in each step of the sociodramatic activity. After learning scripts, all children demonstrate more frequent and diverse social behavior. These effects are maintained or even enhanced as we train successive scripts. This is Pet Store and Carnival, Magic Show. And surprisingly, when the triads were reconstituted to include new but similarly trained partners, the results were even more impressive. Results provided support for the inclusive systematic training of social scripts to enhance the interaction among children with and without disabilities during sociodramatic play. Our final example involves learning how to read. Learning to process, produce, and understand written language or reading is a difficult task for many children. We know that to learn how to read, children need to know about the correspondence between letters and sounds, and how sounds are manipulated through blending, segmenting, alliteration, if sounds are to be formed into words. And if children apply alphabet knowledge and phonemic awareness, they can learn to decode. But they also need to recognize words and know what they mean to become fluent readers. We know a lot, but we have a big problem, and it's implementation. To teach children what they need to do to be successful in a literate society. We need interventions that work in classrooms. We need interventions that don't place additional demands on teachers. We need to promote active engagement and provide lots of opportunities for children to respond. Well, it turns out that teaching vocabulary explicitly is a rare in preschool classrooms. So we developed Story Friends, a supplemental curriculum for vocabulary instruction. It's easy to implement. Here you see a small group of children participating in a listening center. They have their own books and they listen under headphones to a recording of a narrator reading a story with embedded vocabulary lessons. We find in this graph on the right that repeated exposure to the books without embedding of explicit instruction results in minimal learning, less than 1 word per week. In contrast, with the Story Friends instruction of 4 words per book, we get large effects. Children learn to define over half of the words, and the definition test is a pretty conservative test of word learning. So these examples seem to provide snapshots into valuable discoveries, but this talk also gave me an opportunity to reflect on what allowed me to be successful to be recognized by AAAS. What was my approach? I saw problems that seemed solvable. I was in environments that supported solving those problems. I also wasn't encumbered by theories like black box explanations that did not guide me to solutions. And I often learned to simplify rather than complicate intervention. Admittedly, reading this book recently by Stephen Johnson also helped me to realize I'm merely a useful cog in the scientific enterprise. To be successful, I was willing to be wrong and to be persistent. I was happy to collaborate and to share the credit. I was also able to capitalize on others' good ideas and make them better. In reality, science is not so much about individuals' discoveries, but about adding to the fabric of behavior science. In my case, I need to share the credit broadly. I've been fortunate to be in wonderful academic institutions that supported my brand of science. I've had so many colleagues and students to whom I'm eternally grateful. And if you're interested in the real tale of how I became a behavior scientist, It involves sitting in a gym class and a boy who couldn't jump. Pre-pandemic, it was a story best told over beer. However, the post-pandemic cost of that tale is now a martini. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosty. Our second presenter and AAAS fellow, Dr. Ray Miltenberger.
I suppose it helps if you unmute and put your camera on. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity to present my research. I want to thank the folks that are still around here on a Friday afternoon. And I want to thank the Dean's Office for helping promote my application for fellow. I want to thank the university for facilitating it. I want to thank my three supporters, Steve Hayes, Alan Kazan, and John Roll, who wrote letters for me and nominated me. But mostly I want to thank the 58 graduate and undergraduate students that have been involved in this line of research over the past 30 years. These are the folks that have really made it happen. They've allowed me to be successful and really have a career that brought me to this point. So what I've done and what I've accomplished has really been a product of many people's work. So I'm going to give you a little slice of the research that I've been doing. The title of my talk is Talking's Not Teaching, Lessons from 30 Years of Research on Teaching Safety Skills. And I guess a place to start is to talk about what are threats to child safety? Why do children need to learn safety skills? Well, they can be injured or killed by a variety of things. I've listed 6 here. And of these 6, I've done research on 4 of them over the past 3 decades, looking for strategies that we can use to help keep kids safe. So when we talk about responding safely to these safety threats, there's really 3 core safety skills. Kids need to learn to discriminate the presence of the threat. If they don't know it's a threat, they're not going to react accordingly. Once they discriminate it's a safety threat and avoid contact with it, they need to escape from the threat, and then they need to inform a trusted adult. So we're talking about recognizing a threat, getting away and telling an adult. And when you think about it, these are 3 pretty simple behaviors, right? This is not rocket science. It's not complex. It's pretty straightforward, right? But there's a problem. You know, safety threats occur when kids are alone. If parents or caregivers are present, then they're going to keep them safe. So the real problem is when kids are alone. Secondly, kids don't recognize that these are threats. That's a really big part of what we have to do, is teach them that these are threats. The third problem is that these threats offer the promise of a reward. So when that nice man asks you to get in his car, he's offering you something to do so. When you see that gun sitting on the table in your parents' bedroom, it looks like a toy. It looks like the thing that people use on TV all the time. So there's this natural tendency to approach these safety threats because there is this possibility of reward. And finally, these safety threats are low incident. They don't happen to many kids. In fact, most kids will never experience the threat, so there's very little opportunity for practice. Unlike wearing your seatbelt in the car that you do every day, or a bike helmet when you ride a bike, you don't really have a chance to practice these safety skills unless you're part of some sort of training program. So for example, a kid sees a firearm on a table. The kid's natural tendency is to pick it up, to look at it, and unfortunately to point it at something, including themselves, and to pull the trigger, because that's what you do with a gun, which puts kids at tremendous risk. Just a couple, not just a couple, but a number of research projects have looked at what kids do when they find guns. And what they found is that most kids play with those guns. And furthermore, the kids that play with the guns report that they previously had received some sort of safety instruction about not touching guns when they find them. And I'm just using guns as one exemplar of a safety threat in my research that has looked at teaching kids how to be safe around safety threats. So when kids find guns, they play with them, and so there are consequences. Research shows that over 100 kids a year are killed when they find a gun and play with it, and we're talking about a kid killing him or herself or another kid who happens to be in the room. And over 1,000 kids are injured every year when a kid finds a gun and plays with it. Here's one tragic example. 3-year-old boy picks up a gun and shoots himself in the head. Another tragic example, a 7-year-old picks up a gun and kills another child who happens to be in the room. So when you see these headlines over and over, you get a sense of how serious the problem is. So what's the solution? Well, first and foremost, it's to get parents to do the right thing. Kids would not be at risk of injury from guns if parents stored them safely. They would not be at risk of injury from poisons if parents stored them safely. They would not be at risk of injury from drowning if parents had gates around their pool, etc. So first and foremost, parents must do the right thing. And second, as a supplementary approach, is that we need to get kids to do the right thing. So it's about behavior, right? It's about the parents' behavior of keeping environments safe. It's about the children's behavior of having the skills to respond safely if they ever face a safety threat. So in terms of guns, parents can lock their guns, they can put them in a safe, they can keep them unloaded, they can do a number of things such that their children won't find their guns, or when they find them, they will not be a threat. Pretty simple solution. Public health research shows that most educational programs targeting parents don't work. You can't get parents, by and large, to store their guns safely if they want the guns available for use for protection. And so that approach to the problem does not work very well, and research supports that. So if we can't get parents to store their guns safely, then we need to talk about changing child behavior. And of course, if every time a kid saw a gun, they stopped, didn't touch it, got away and told an adult, then they would be safe around guns. So this is in fact exactly what some available programs try to teach kids. So the Eddie Eagle Gun Safe program is one available program that's been around for decades, and in fact teaches those very skills, or purports to teach those skills. So some of my early research was focused on trying to evaluate programs that already existed, and then to compare those programs to programs that are more behavioral in nature. So one of my first studies looked at the Eddie Eagle program, which involves instructions and modeling, and we compared it to a behavioral skills training program that involved not only showing the kids what to do and telling the kids what to do, but having them practice with reinforcement repeatedly until they are engaging in the correct behavior over and over in a number of situations. So in this research, we measured the child's behavior after training in 3 ways. We did a self-report assessment. Oops, messing with my slides here. In which we asked kids what they would do when they found a gun. We did a role play assessment where we put a disabled gun in front of them and had to show us what they would do. And then we did an in situ assessment, which is one of the ways that I've advanced this literature, where we test kids without their knowledge, where we place a disabled firearm in a room with a hidden camera, and we see what kids will do when they actually find the gun. So if you look at the self-report assessment, you see that the blue is the control kids. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't tell you what to do when they find a gun. You look at the Eddie Eagle kids and the behavioral skills training kids, and they could tell you what to do. On this scale, a 3 means they could tell you don't touch it, get away, and tell an adult, and a 0 means they touched the gun. So on our role play assessment, you see the control kids still didn't know what to do. The Eddie Eagle kids performed better than controls, but the behavioral skills training kids who had practiced that skill repeatedly did the right thing every time. But then the third set of bars is the true assessment. This is the in situ assessment. This is the assessment that matters. What's a kid going to do when they find a gun? They don't know anybody's watching. That gun looks real to them, and what we see is the Eddie Eagle kids don't do any better than controls. Even though they could tell you what to do, they won't do it when they don't know they're being assessed. Behavioral skills training kids perform statistically significantly better. And so these kids who were in the Ed Eagle program that didn't do it right, they got one session of in situ training in which we entered the assessment and we trained them on the spot using behavioral skills training. We did a second in situ assessment and they did it right the second time. So a take-home point here is that instructions alone don't work. Instructions and modeling don't work. You need an active learning approach to get kids to do the right thing. By the way, that gun that kid is holding is disabled and she can't possibly hurt herself with it. But this is a real kid doing a real in situ assessment that picks up a gun and is at risk of blowing her head off because she's looking down the barrel of it. So to move along, let me just say that we have conducted quite a few studies. We also looked at what kids do when they are faced with an abduction scenario. We evaluated a commercially available program, the Stranger Safety Program, which has won Emmys. It's been identified as a fantastic program. And in one study, we compared it to our behavioral approach. And what we see is that on the left, the blue is control and the red is the treatment group. On the y-axis, the 2 means when the kid faced an abduction lure, he ran away and told an adult. 0 means they agreed to go with the abductor. And you see the kids that participated in this program performed no better than the controls. Each of them, had our in situ assessment been real, they would have been abducted. These kids all received one in situ training session where immediately after they were assessed, the researcher walked up to the kid and practiced the skills repeatedly. And then when they were assessed again without their knowledge, they all did the right thing. So what does work? An active learning approach works, really consistent with Howard talked about in his presentation. Behavioral skills training and in situ training where kids practice under seemingly real circumstances until they perform multiple times with multiple scenarios with reinforcement. That's what works. And ultimately we want the kid to face the safety threat, recognize it, run away and tell a parent. And if we conduct a behavioral approach, that in fact is what works. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray. Thank you, Howard. So 2 really inspiring presentations. As you know, a parent of a 7-year-old, there's definitely a lot of food for thought. Well, we have come to the end. We're a little 3 minutes over, but I want to give many thanks to our support staff and with Patty Cleveland, you know, Stefan, and all my faculty council co-chair Devin Wise, and all our members, and Tina Delahan Espalaga, our past chair, for making this years of service really rewarding, and it helps getting all the process smooth. And I want to thank all faculty who attended. It was really a great honor to have you as colleague, and I wish you a good having a good weekend and rest of the semester and a great summer. And hopefully we will be able to, you know, meet in person and make real impact, right, to help our community and move the science forward. So thank you so much. With that, I conclude today's faculty and staff assembly.